Alright, so Unreal is cooperating a little bit. Um, so this is how it goes. Each channel, it's kind of like its own grayscale information image. So as you can see from what you have here, if you just use the red channel, and we're not going to use the green channel, if you just use the red channel, you get these two circles over there, and if you use the blue channel, you get this shape over here. Now, what is the purpose of that shape? It's really simple. It's in order to actually lerp the image. And I'm going to show you exactly this. And then it's going to be up to you to combine all four images for this shader. So right now, the only thing that I have plugged in is I have it plugged in base and emissive, but it actually needs to be translucent like everything we always do, mostly, and unlit. And then that disables this thing over there. And I actually want this to be in opacity. Alright, so if I save this, let me just also get a color. So by holding V and clicking, I get a color. And I'm gonna just leave it to white for now. Alright, so this is what we have. We've got the outer ring rotating around. Now, lerp, we've seen lerp before. It's a node that allows us to sort of fade in between one layer and another. So if I have something plugged in A over here and something plugged in B, then the alpha that's over here, if it's set to 0, what comes out of the node is going to be whatever is plugged in A. And if I set the value to 1, whatever comes out of it is going to be what's plugged in B. But as you can see, you can actually plug something in the alpha. So just to illustrate this, I'm actually going to plug this right here. And I'm going to create a scalar parameter. And I'm going to save it. Alright, now if I go here and I slide this up to 1, you can see that the image is fading from A to B. And if I were to use a gradient in that alpha, I'm just gonna get text chord, I'm gonna get a component mask, and I'm simply going to use red, which will get me a gradient that goes from left to right, which we don't see. It's gonna appear shortly. So right now I've got something, the node preview is not there, but I've got a gradient that goes from black to white. It displays as red. I don't know why it decides to do this, but see what happens. You can see that one texture is appearing brighter on the left side. That's the ring. And as we go to the other side, wait, is it inverse? I'm not even sure. Wait. So this is black on the left. Oh, I guess maybe it's just a matter of rotating this. That would make sense, yeah. So black on the left returns the top node, and white on the right, which is displayed as red in here, and it shouldn't be, is returning our second input over here. So this is using a simple gradient as the alpha. But what happens if I want to lerp between these two textures, between this and this? So it's pretty simple. I want whatever is in the red area of the blue channel of this texture to appear. So I would have to use the blue channel as the alpha of the lerp. Then if I want the red area to show these need to be plugged in the second input. I'm just gonna swap these around. And if I move it up here and I plug this input in A, now if I save, it might sound confusing right now, but you will see the magic. You get this. You get this, and it's required to use this a sort of technique like this, because if we don't lerp and we just add them to one another, then you would see the text and the outer ring underneath this circle over here, or not really underneath, they would both be adding to each other. But because I'm lerping with this, I get to hide the ring when as it goes underneath. So I want you guys to use this technique. Here's the graph. There's a bunch of other textures that you need to use in order to create this. So let me just plug the rotator over here. So I have one value over here, and if I put a negative value over there, you're gonna get this effect of the counter rotating elements in the texture. So I leave it up to you to be able to combine the other textures together to give each of them a speed. And also, I don't know if you've noticed, but in the spell circle over here, as you can see, while I have it on pause, it's not just fading in one piece, you know, like you can see that there's a sort of gradient, a sort of noise, so the texture is appearing progressively, kind of like from different spots. This is pretty simple. I'm just using a noise in there. I'm gonna show you how I'm doing it. So I can move this aside for now. I'm actually gonna show the preview on a plane. Come on. There it is. So if I multiply what I have there with the noise, you get something like this. The tiling of the noise doesn't seem right. Maybe I can make it tile a bit more, but that will be up to you to do it. And so right now, it's just being multiplied by this. But how do we get the texture to actually become completely white? Well, it's pretty simple. If I add a scalar parameter and I saturate. So as you guys remember, saturate makes it so that values cannot go higher than 1. Actually gonna launch Photoshop in the background. I'm gonna explain it to you later when it's launched. I'm gonna draw a nice little graph. So what happens over here, I'm just gonna save. Okay, so right now what we have is being multiplied by the gradient. But what happens if we add a value to the gradient so that it becomes completely white? Well, our picture gets completely revealed, as simple as that. So this value over here, when it's set to 0, we see it dark like this, and when it's set to 1, we see it. We see the whole thing appearing. Oh, the preview is here finally. I wish the preview was faster. And if I set it to -1, then everything is invisible. So if you have something that goes from -1 to 1, you can get the fading that you need. And you guys remember the dynamic parameter? So if you want to control it from the particle system, you replace this over here with the input over there. And in the particle system, you simply have to animate it from -1 to 1 in order to get the spell circle to show up. And what I actually wanted to show you regarding the saturate node. So imagine that you have this little graph over here. So a texture goes from black, which is a value of 0, to 1, which is a value of white. But within a shader, it's possible to boost values so that they go higher. So suppose that we have this, and we have a texture that is a gradient that fades from black to white, but we multiply it by 2. So instead of going all the way to 1, the white actually goes to a value of 2. So you have a fading that goes like this or whatever. Well, when you saturate, what happens is that you sort of cut this over here and you make sure that no value ever goes above 1. Uh, 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 uh. Oh, I wish I was faster. So you sort of limit your value like this. So this makes it easier to control, because sometimes when you go above a value of 1 in your colors, that's when your colors start to shine too much, and well, you want this in some cases, but in some other cases you don't want this, because in this case, if we don't saturate it, some spots are going to actually be too opaque. And I'm gonna show you what I mean by this, because we have some half tones, of alpha in there. So if I remove the saturate and I let the value go as high as 2, you're going to see the pattern of the noise inside of this over here. Do we actually see it? I guess I have to boost the values a bit more. Maybe because in the the gradient in the noise over here, the values don't exactly get all the way to 1. I'm pretty sure I can find a value where some of the details are just gone. Yeah, it's hard to see, but anyway, you know what I mean. Like I want to cap the alpha so that it doesn't go above what I have plugged in here. So simply plugging saturate makes sure that I keep control over what I have in there. All right, so I think that's enough tips for you guys. Um, and regarding the rings, just refer to what I showed you during last class. With the mesh and the normals, that little trick that we're making the rings expand, or like get thicker or thinner. So you're gonna have to use that technique. And I wish you good luck with this. Okay, see ya.